From the Middle is a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode number 264 of From the Middle. We're a comedy, culture, entertainment, and interview style podcast, and boy, do we cover a lot of different subjects. In this episode, Kory has a project he's working on around the house. We talk a little about the Olympics, and especially that opening ceremony, a little bit of marketing conspiracy turned reels, turned some of the stuff we're watching, including a Marvel reveal. You'll be shocked to find out who's coming back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Enjoy this episode. We had a ton of fun.
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole. I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
From the Middle after dark over here.
So I don't know if we've talked about this or not before, but do we have thoughts on gender reveals? Whether they're have you ever been to a gender reveal party? Or have you ever had a gender reveal party?
I have thoughts on how much I enjoy gender reveal parties gone wrong.
Those are always fun. Yeah.
When there's like something, a color didn't get put in whatever balloon or cake is supposed to have a reveal. Those videos are all great. Or like the balloon is going to get popped, but then it blows away off.
Yeah.
You know,
or a dude lets off like a confetti cannon, but it's upside down and it nails them.
Yes,
I've seen that before.
I've seen wrestlers in pink and blue that have like a WWE style Royal Rumble, and the winner is the gender. I've seen videos like that. It's really, there's so many different variants on how people do these things that I feel like at this point to not just be like, ugh, you need to do something really funny or really subtle, like classy subtle. But most of the time they feel over the top. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we jumped the shark when I saw, and she's now a semi-famous comedian who tours with Chelsea. I can't remember her last name. She plays a redneck character. Anyway, she put colored baby powder in her butt crack, laid on her stomach, and then just stared at the camera, deadpan, and farted, and a poof of colored air, while her friends behind her went, and I was like, "Yeah, I think we've gone too far with these." I enjoy bits about sort of making fun of them.
Maybe with those kinds of things. My first thought about gender reveal parties is basically, really, to each their own. Do what you want. But then as you guys are talking, I'm starting to think, well, like maybe I actually do enjoy gender reveal stuff. The reason I asked, there was perhaps the ultimate few people could pull off this situation, the scenario, like to do a gender reveal in front of millions of people during the Olympics. Did you hear about this? Ryan Murphy, highly decorated U.S. swimmer, very popular, very famous guy. The top of his sport. He wins a medal. And then as he's getting out of the pool, his wife is holding up a sign from the stands that says, "It's a girl." And that was the gender reveal right there at his medal winning moment. And then he goes and hugs her. All of America sees it. And I feel like it's kind of like the promposal thing. Like once somebody does something like that, it's all over from there.
Yeah, because somewhere some kid named Josh in rural America is like, "I just soaked the pepperoni for our pizza in blue food dye. And here you go, honey."
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's all downhill after an Olympian uses their
the Olympics.
Yeah, use the Olympics in their medal winning moment to do a gender reveal. It's all done.
Yeah. So that's that. And that's how Ryan Murphy found out that he was having a girl. So he did not know. So I just thought that was an interesting thing, and then maybe a segue into Olympics, unless we want to keep talking about gender reveal stuff.
Well, I was going to say about the way that his wife chose to do that, beautiful, obviously, but just to take the alternative approach, maybe I'm just going to throw it out there. Now you're like conflating two emotional moments. You could argue that it's making it even better, but like I'm trying to focus on the fact that I just medaled in the Olympics, and now you've pivoted my attention, and now I can't just celebrate this thing. I don't know. It's a little bit like when Brian Regan has a joke about announcers, something like interviewer comes up to him, "Are you dedicating your win today to your deceased grandmother?" And it's like, well, I am now.
Are you saying his unborn daughter stole his thunder, Olympic thunder? Is that?
I'm asking the question. It's like, hey, wife, could you have done it at dinner that night instead of on national television? We shared a special. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there to be contrarian.
Well, I think the right answer is you're supposed to, as a parent, feel like it enhances the moment, but we're human, and some of us might go, well, that sucked. I just
it'd be a boring podcast. It'd be a boring podcast if we both said, yeah.
I think it depends on their relationship. If he's constantly feeling like she's stealing his thunder in other ways, he's probably thinking, great, I couldn't even have 30 seconds of being a medal winning Olympian, and once again you've made it about you again. I can't just have a single thing that's mine.
I can't even win an Olympic medal.
Yeah. Oh, now this is our medal. I see.
Our family's medal, our unborn daughter's medal. Great job, everyone but me.
Yeah. That's weird. I didn't remember you and our unborn baby being in the pool all those hours, putting in lots of work, but okay.
Yeah.
Well, fine.
I mean, you could make the argument that the wife has made sacrifices for him to continue to do what he's been doing.
Oh, come on.
But the unborn daughter, what has she done?
Yeah.
So how much have you guys been watching? I assume you at least caught the opening ceremonies. There was a lot of news.
Yeesh.
A lot of news.
A lot of stuff that to be honest, I watched the opening ceremony and then found out apparently about what I watched after the fact. Like it doesn't, that tells you kind of how much importance I put onto what people are talking about. I saw it and didn't notice it. So there you have it.
Well, I caught bits and pieces. Sherry was super excited to watched it, some of it live and then some of it later that night. Really enjoyed the masked mystery, sort of like torchbearer with the really
torch-bearing
cool
stuff was amazing.
Assassin's Creed / turn of the century French distressed garb. That was a cool look. And I gotta say, my personal highlight was Celine. I mean, seeing how emotional Kelly Clarkson got, because I didn't know about the Celine's health challenges.
Yeah.
So seeing how emotional Kelly Clarkson got about seeing Celine sing that song and that rendition was awesome. Thought at first that she lip synced it. Maybe it was just the delay in her mouth movement and what was coming out over the speakers, but I read an article that says she did not. So super impressive regardless. Awesome performance.
Yeah.
I missed that quote live, but I went back and watched it later. It was really good, and I had been aware of her health stuff, but I didn't know she was going to perform. So when I heard she did, my reaction was, whoa, how did her and the doctors pull that off? And then she did a great job. And I think the one thing with her, it was apparently live and not lip syncing. Even if there was anyone that I would be like, totally get why, whether you like Celine Dion or not, she has vocal ability. And I would certainly understand with her health concerns or issues that if she didn't, she would easily get a pass in my mind because of what had gone on. All the cooler that she's singing herself. And in regards to the opening ceremonies, all the more reason knee-jerk reactions aren't good. And it's great to just Google history sometimes when you have questions about other cultures. Short Google search away from lots of interesting details that might explain why things are the way that they are in other countries that we don't have control over. So I thought they were really good. Much like Kendall, wasn't bothered by anything until I got online after and heard other people were bothered. So I thought I felt like my history brain was sort of like trying to like clock on to what they were going for at each point along the way where that was applicable. And I didn't realize the Ubisoft tie to Assassin's Creed that was a French studio or that it was made there or whatever. Same with Minions. Is that a thing?
Mhm.
Minions studio.
Yes.
Illumination is
France.
in Paris. So I was trying to figure out the tie in there. So some of it was fun to look up after. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. So
I'm with you. And I hope Mariah Carey feels real good about herself right now.
What'd she do?
What'd she do? She lip syncs everywhere, left, right, and center.
She's the worst.
I wanted to throw that in there in context when we were talking about Celine, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It would have landed better with better timing.
It's all good. Speaking of better timing, so fact check myself on the comedian. Chelsea Lynn is the name of the comedian. If you want to go look up that fart gender reveal, and it's her friend Paige that does it. Paige sort of got famous by doing a bunch of like pratfalls on TikTok, but they're really believable. She's really good at making them look like legit. Speaking of feeling like an Olympian, when we recorded last week, I had just been bested by some landscaping lights and some extra landscaping wire. And that following morning, after we recorded, and I was so dejected about the fact that I could not figure it out, I literally woke up and went, I know what I did wrong. So for a third time, I unboxed everything. Figured it out, you guys.
Yeah.
I figured out landscaping lighting.
There you go.
It's one of those situations where I probably would have figured it out intuitively had I not looked at the directions that came with the box. The box made it more confusing than what my idiot brain already understood at a base level about wiring.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thrown by the directions that were translated from Chinese to English and very broken. Could not figure it out. And they would not just include a simple illustration to show which wire went to which wire. But anyway, the point is I should be in the electrician Olympics because I freaking figured it out, as well as, so we were talking about there's got to be some simple lighting solutions, as well as some very fun in-water lighting solutions that I sent you guys video of. For a 21-foot pool like ours, it recommends 1, 10, or 20-watt light. I opted for 2 40-watt lights.
Because America.
Because I figured, hey, I can always dim it if it's too intense, but I want to have the option. So when you turn on, it can go through different colors. It's just a LED thing. When you go through the different colors on the app, if you turn it to lime green, it literally looks like you're swimming in toxic ooze from an 80s cartoon. It's pretty great. So anyway, the pool is lit on the inside and the outside. And I'm like, let's go. I didn't let it beat me.
Good job.
Good
So
work,
speaking
Kory.
of illumination, you had the epiphany that you needed to have. There are a lot of people that don't even look at instructions, because that was going to be my question. Like, did you look at the instructions or just try to wing it? And the line that people like, there's some kind of line. We don't know where it is, but we know it when we see an item of, I'm just going to try to figure this out without instructions, versus this is definitely something I'm going to need to use the instructions for. And everyone's line is very different. Did you have an initial gut reaction of like, I can figure this out, and then later you went to the instructions? Or did that feel right away like, this has wires and electricity involved,
The latter. The minute I unboxed the lights, and the lights were not connected to one another, but out of each light came 2 wires. And then when they said, you also need to buy some extra landscaping wire in just a spool and a transformer, a little mini transformer with a regular AC power outlet, I was like, instructions.
Good idea. That makes sense.
My first thought was, I'm just going to daisy chain each light to the next light. But then I was like, how do they know the distance that I'm trying to go between lights? Oh, they must want me to wire each light to the standard spool of wire. So I got to cut. Then which ones is there a positive, negative? Then I Google, and it's like, hey, with low voltage landscaping lights, there is no polarity. It doesn't matter. Just connect wire to wire. But that was even confusing. Anyway, more detail than you need. But yes, I was like, the minute I saw individual lights with a wire coming out of each side, I was like, help.
Yeah. You kind of did a practice in like the old speaker wire, running wire through the walls kind of thing. Like you buy a spool, you cut the lengths you need. Those you do have positive, negative, but like it was kind of that exercise.
Yeah, pretty much. But now that I know, I'm like, I was dumb to get over worried about it.
There's been no fires. It's probably fine.
I just needed to keep trying. Wow.
Just keep going.
Keep making the next logical step.
You know what's fun is when you replace all of the outlets in a room because, you know, off-white won't do. And so you need white ones. And then like none of the outlets work when you turn the power back on. And now you have to figure out like which one is causing the problem.
Oh.
And one of them's on a switch. So you have that little wrinkle as well. And so now it turns into a fun game of one person downstairs on the phone with the person who's in the room. Like, all right, turn it off. All right, turn it back on. Okay, dang it. All right, turn it off. Turn it back on. Ah, dang it. All right, I'm just going to start replacing them one by one. Turn it off. Turn it on. So that's fun.
There are times to do it yourself, and there are times to call professionals.
Well, hey, I don't even know what the problem was in that one. We eventually just replaced them all one by one, and it worked. But
all right.
Yeah, electricity is such a weird thing. It seems like it should be simple, but you get one little thing wrong, and it could be problems. We still have issues trying to like put smart switches all over our home by ourselves, and we are going to have a friend come in and take a look at something for us because it looks like in one situation we've got something missing from I don't know.
Well,
I don't know enough about it, but
this was one of those. Speaking of lines, Dillon, there are lines when it's like, when do you look at the instructions? There was another line. When do I call a professional versus when do I just send all this crap back?
Yeah.
And with the latter, I was like, wait, I actually can't call a professional electrician because if he sees the jerry-rigged way that I'm trying to do this, in other words, you're supposed to bury conduit under the dirt and then come up at your pool. And I was just using an edger to dig like a 4-foot little mini trench and tuck the wire in my grass, basically just so I don't mow over it. If I call it professional, he's going to come out here and be like, I can't in good conscience give you advice or help on this because you're breaking so many codes and like safety things. And it's wires by a pool. Bro, like wires going into a pool. He's like, I'm just going to walk away. So I almost needed to call somebody that I could be like, they knew just enough about wiring to help me, but not too much to like tell me I shouldn't be doing this because I'm going to fry my family.
Yeah, that just enough to be dangerous takes on a whole new meaning with
literally that.
Yeah. Although I will submit, I understand why you did your sort of rig with your pool. Now that you have a shed, I think you should reconsider running a conduit out to the shed and breaking it off to the pool. Do the pool right now because you could also get power to your shed, which I think could be worthwhile to be able to use tools. So now it might be worth it because you've got two things you can run a conduit for, which makes it make more sense. So I submit, and you could always then put another router access point out in the shed to expand your Wi-Fi if you ever wanted, because then you'd have power out there. Just a thought in case you ever want to do that. So,
well, speaking of hiring professionals, this is live real news, Kendall. We are officially hiring the guy you recommended to do our basement based on the one that did yours. So we're finally going to finish the basement, and yeah, we're excited. He gave us a couple options, and we did the smart thing and said, you've been doing this for 25 years. How would you do this basement? And then sort of blended that with our idea. And he gave us some really good thoughts. So we're excited to have that in hopefully by 1st of November. So be watching college football in a completely finished entertainment man cave fun space. Super.
Wonderful.
That's awesome.
Home improvement projects are fun.
I can't wait to come over and see it and experience college football because you've got a huge TV in your basement. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. Speaking of sports and pivoting to some fun with grammar, because what's more fun than talking about grammar on a podcast? I noticed this when I started watching Formula One. And I thought maybe this is just a British thing. But they structure their sentences sometimes like this. And I heard it on the Olympics too, which made me think maybe it's starting to carry over into American broadcasting. So here was the Olympic version. They have to get back in this game, does New Zealand. So here's the Formula One example. He went too far over the curb, did Max Verstappen. He's flying along, is Verstappen right now. He took a lot of speed into that corner, did Lewis. It just, the structure of the sentence to put the subject last, I get it. Sometimes they get talking about the action and forget to mention who they're talking about, but I had only heard it in Formula One. Have you guys ever picked up on this sentence structure? And do you think it's British broadcasting, especially with global football, soccer, spilling over into American broadcasters doing that? Have you ever heard that? Once you hear it, you can't stop hearing it.
I've never noticed it. It doesn't strike me as quite that odd. So I don't know. I don't
take it as odd. I take it as more. I was like, oh, I noticed that. I noticed that it stuck out. It wasn't
but it's
odd, like wrong. It's just like, oh, that's different.
But it's like a frequency thing, probably. So like they're probably doing it a lot more in Formula One, and you start noticing that like, oh, that's just the way they do it. And for us, it'd be like more along the lines of in America, that would be like a thought process thing. It'd be I thought about the action first, and then I should fill the people in on who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
because my mind is thinking faster than my mouth, and it'd be that kind of thing that I would chalk it up to in America versus in Europe. Maybe they just do that.
It's like how I heard an historic event, historic event. This is an historic event. I started hearing that more with British broadcasting. And now I feel like I pick it up more on the Sports Center and other things.
I think an historic has been around. That one's been on my radar for a while because it strikes me as funny. But
so, Dillon, do you have thoughts on that before I pivot? Because it connects to another thing.
I've never noticed it, but now because I am definitely watching more international football / soccer, whatever. I feel like I'm going to notice it more now that you've called it out.
Yeah. So, and it was the New Zealand US men's soccer in the Olympics where they were like, they have to get back in this game. Does New Zealand? Just felt weird. Okay. So saw a funny meme today that says the name Ruth's Chris Steakhouse pisses me off so much. And I was like, that hits because I've had that thought before. It's so difficult to say. And then people are like, well, is it apostrophe S or is it Ruth's? Chris's Steakhouse belongs to Ruth. So it's Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Anyway, in the comments, somebody said, yeah, that's how much it bothers me with nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee. The jingle, nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee. And somebody goes, no, it's nobody does it like Sarah Lee. And they're like, no, look at their branding. Sure enough, 40 years old in a week or so. And I just learned that it's nobody doesn't, as in does not like. The double negative is intentional because the full slogan is everybody doesn't like something, but nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee.
Okay, in that context, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But when you just do the second half of it, it sounds weird.
It sounds weird.
I think they need to just trademark the other one and have both. And then they
So
can gaslight us into what the actual thing is.
search engine optimization reveals that most people Google what they think it is, which is nobody does it like Sara Lee, but it's the other.
Yeah, some of these things, like some of the
It's a-
stuff that people believe to be true that's not, and like Mandela Effect stuff.
Yeah,
And
it's so
it's so
fun.
bizarre. And one that I'm convinced, I don't get into conspiracies generally speaking, but one that I am convinced is a conspiracy is for the Fruit of the Loom one. Have you seen this? So Fruit of the Loom claims, like, well, let me start by saying this. When I say Fruit of the Loom logo, what do you think of?
A basket of fruit.
Yeah, a basket or like a cornucopia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Fruit of the Loom says their logo has never had a cornucopia or basket. It's just fruit.
Oh, if you allow me to share, I can share while you're talking.
And everyone swears there's a cornucopia or some kind of basket, whatever word you want to use. But you think of it kind of like the pointed design or like a tipped over basket or cornucopia with fruit. They claim at a corporate level that it's never had it. And I've seen, because I've Googled it, I've seen people take shirts, pictures of shirts with the logo with the cornucopia, but then some people are like, well, maybe that was a knockoff. And there's been a newspaper article that describes the logo and describes it with a cornucopia, but they say that it's never had it. But I don't believe them. I think they've just had some misprinted or something runs or an old version of the logo that, like sometimes now companies have a very clear like brand X type team. Like we're going to unify all of our. I just think that they probably had some different designers or artists at some point and had a different version because I don't believe them. And in theory, you'd say, Dillon, that's bizarre because clearly they would know better than anybody else. But if the entire internet remembers a cornucopia, there was a cornucopia. It was a thing. There's examples that it's a thing. So that's one example of it's just weird that some of this stuff even exists and is a thing. That's one I'm convinced that Fruit of the Loom knows and they're lying. And maybe it's just a marketing thing to get people to keep looking up Fruit of the Loom and go buy it places. I don't know, but I think they know, and I think this is intentional.
I just imagine people rolling their eyes that this is the altitude of our conversations sometimes. And then I Google it while you're talking. Fast Company, Yahoo Finance, like major publications have done like full-blown write-ups on this phenomenon. I'm seeing people holding pictures of black socks that the band around it has a cornucopia on it.
Right.
And then there are articles saying these pics don't prove that Fruit of the Loom's logo once had a cornucopia on it, even though it does.
Which is
Crazy.
fair enough, right? You can't trust images that you find on the interwebs these days.
Yeah, and if I'm trying to let myself be gaslit, maybe these were knockoff clothing items that weren't actually Fruit of the Loom. I just don't believe it though, because everyone seems, I don't know anyone who's denying it but their corporate offices. Everyone else seems to believe that it was a thing. So I think they had some version that was manufactured on clothes for a while that, or in ads or something that we all saw. And I don't know.
Something happened and now they're trying to distance themselves from the cornucopia.
Yeah. There was some reason they didn't like it or
that
something.
wasn't us. That wasn't us.
Not us.
Like an accidental copyright infringement.
Yeah, some other company. Yeah,
like Thanksgiving is after them for using a cornucopia spilling out.
Maybe
they don't want to get involved with Big Thanksgiving.
Big Thanksgiving is totally after them. Yeah, I think so.
We never did. Leave us alone, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's like it's trademarked. We can't acknowledge that we ever had that version of the logo. There was some private, like they settled it out of court and they just can't talk about it. And they're like, we would love to tell the American people and the whole world that it was a thing, but we just NDA. Settlement.
According to court documents, we can talk about it in 7.5 years.
Sealed court documents. Yeah.
So Snopes informs us that 2 of the most circulated images of the socks and a building with it on it were created intentionally to demonstrate the Mandela effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the lesser known name for the cornucopia, the Horn of Plenty, which is just a good time. Um, Speaking of Horns of Plenty, I got an email in my inbox today from Liquid Death, and they're weird with their marketing. So they're doing a collab between a company called Bad Birdie, where your golf clubs, the shaft is a little bigger, and you can pee in it while you're golfing, so that you don't have to run to the woods. So you twist off the top, and you get a little golf towel over your waist, and you can be on the tee box, pee into the handle of your golf club, and then just conveniently empty it at the next
That's amazing.
convenient time.
Yeah. As long as this,
It's just this type of self-aware
Uh,
caricature of itself branding that I am.
that's hey for the late fall and early spring golfers, they could probably really use a grip warmer.
Exactly, Dylan. You have to let me share so I can just share this video real quick, and then I know we're up against a break, but I have to share this real quick.
yeah, while Corey's pulling that up, I'm going to tee up for after our break. There's
No pun intended.
That's exactly right. There's a certain kind of reel that's really gotten to me, and I need your guys' take if you've seen these kinds of reels. But I won't talk about it until after Corey's video and after we hear from some of our friends in Odd Pods Media. Let's hope Kory can get this video teed up. Is it asking for me?
Yeah, post disabled participant screen sharing.
I don't know how to change that. Where do I change that?
You say that every time, and then you change it.
Can I do that? Can you?
There we go. All right. So this isn't the full video. I'm just going to share the preview of the video. You guys seeing it?
First of all, this is why you need to follow us on YouTube. Second, just make sure the snack girl on the snack card isn't nearby when you're pulling this number, because that's going to be bizarre.
Lawsuits waiting to happen. Yeah,
that's very funny. All right, well, let's take a quick break. We'll hear from some of our friends, and then I'll tell you what reel type has really gotten to me. We'll be right back.
We interrupt this program to bring you a news flash.
Michael Jackson's ghost seen at a Yankees game.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, now with a shrimp in every bite.
Lil Uzi Vert's head diamond has been sold on the dark web.
Stories like this and more can be found at the Ever Trending Story, a podcast where we peruse the news and write a fun fictional story for you.
Find us wherever you download podcasts and follow us on the socials at Ever Trending Pod, and we are proud members of the Odd Pods Media Network.
Dylan, you have us reading all about the Fruit of the Loom stuff on the break now. I'm deep in the rabbit hole.
Good. Yeah, I wouldn't suggest taking that rabbit hole to other conspiracies. That could be a whole thing, but certainly on this one, it's 100% worth your time, and probably some fan mail to corporate Fruit of the Loom, to put it nicely. So have you guys have seen Inside Out 2 or the first Inside Out, one or the other or both?
Yes,
okay.
Both.
Yeah.
Very good movie. If not quite as good, if not as good as the first one, very close. For some people, a little better. For some people, maybe not quite as good, but very good. Both are very good films. The music is very, it's very well done, and it's very sweet. I'll let people go Google it after, but there's reels that are like parenting advice type videos using the Inside Out music, and it's like your kid going through childhood, whatever. And these reels are messing me up. Like it's such sweet music, and they're like using it to try to like pull this thing out of you to get emotional, and it's working. And the most effective one that I found, have you guys seen this reel where it's like, kind of panning around a house or whatever? It's like when you see all the mess and when you see all the things, and then it's like, but when you get down on their level and the camera goes down to the floor where a kid's like blanket is laid out with all their toys around the edge of the blanket, it looks like a mess from kind of above. It's like, and then you get down on their level and it's their whole world. And it's like it feels like Toy Story, like they've lined up all their favorite things around the blanket, and you just know because you've done it with your kids, like when they get all their favorite things out and it's like they've built this little world around them. You're like, this is so cute. There's music is very effective, and music dictates a lot of what we feel when we watch something, as we've talked about before. And darn it, they are like totally using Inside Out 2 very effectively from a soundtrack perspective, and these people's like individual reels that they're making, that they're trying to do sweet, cute, whatever. So I don't know if you've seen these, but if you find them, just let me know your thoughts, man. The movie is so cute, and then people are coming up with really thoughtful content, and it's just really adorable, and I don't know what to do with it.
I've not seen them, but it sounds beautiful. I feel like I've seen spoofs of those where it starts out that way, and it's like the dad is laying on the couch in the living room. I think I even sent this to you guys. The son is just outside the sliding door with the ball, knocking on the sliding door, wanting the dad to play. And it's like, sometimes you just need to slow down. And then it goes, and then the dad gets up, and then it goes, and sometimes, and he slams the door, and then hip hop music starts.
Yeah.
And so I could see it working both ways, but no, I'm not familiar. I'll check them out, but that sounds beautiful.
Yeah. If nothing else, if you've seen the movies, you know the soundtrack and you know the music that I'm talking about. It's just like I think it's just like a really light sort of piano. Dun, 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 dun. I sped it up for our purposes, but it's like much slower and sweeter. Anyways, it's really good. And that feels like kind of a nice segue to anything that you've been watching. We went and saw Inside Out 2, which was Finley's first ever movie in the theater, which she loved. We had a great time. She's all excited.
Let's double click on that one, because you had shared about the first movie experience with her, and that was super fun to hear about. I thought they did such a good job with that movie, because I thought this was going to be much more about the totality of the emotions that a teenager goes through, and parenting a teen, and the beautiful mess that is that phase, having two teenage girls myself. It centers around basically like a couple days in her life at hockey camp, and does such a beautiful job of pulling out deep meaning from a really, really, really small snippet of the character's life. And it makes me wonder, how far do you think they can go with this? Her going off to college, her starting her own family one day. Like, you could keep going with the inside outs through all of the phases, because you're watching it from, it's relatable if you're the parent of the lead, and it's relatable if you are the lead. And you could keep doing that with these life chapters that Pixar could keep, I don't want to say milking it, because that sounds nefarious or like ill-intended, but like there's a lot of beautiful stories. They did that from 2 days while she was at camp, or 3 days, or whatever it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I saw it was on. We watched some of that Inside Out too. I only saw bits and pieces, but the parts that I saw, I really enjoyed and were lovely.
Yeah. I think our question before going to see it, although I feel like a lot of people have probably already seen it, because I think it's now like the highest grossing animated film of all time. But it was like, do they focus so much on anxiety that either for young kids, it's either too young of kids, it's either not relatable, or if that's something maybe they don't think much about, does that plant the idea that this is a huge deal as you get older, when maybe that's not currently a concern? Like, maybe that's something you introduce later if it is a concern. But I feel like they did a really good job of, obviously, sort of anxiety, the emotion takes control, but they have like ennui, and they have embarrassment, and they have other emotions with the pre-existing ones, that you feel like there's enough story to all of it that it's more about when other emotions do take control, anxiety sort of being more of the driver in this film. But I thought that was a really nice balance. We had asked somebody about that before we went to see it, like, that's not currently a major concern for our 6-year-old, so is this introducing the idea? But I think they handled it really well.
Here's a hot take. I kind of get bothered when people critique any piece of content like that, like what you just said. Is that focusing too much on anxiety? they expect that movie to act as a standalone piece of instruction to your child and take no account of like what you say to the child after you watch the movie.
Right.
Use the thing as a conversation starter and then be a parent and say,
Mhm.
hey, like they always just talk about like so many of these, everybody's offended. And so many people write these articles that are like, how dare they? And you're like, they included something for you to have a conversation about.
Yeah.
And you just want it to be a standalone thing that you just, if anything, you should be glad that some of these questions come up to act as the segue to allow you to do your job as a parent. I get it. The same as with the Olympic thing. Like if you knew what that was, they weren't doing a thing of the thing you think they were doing something else, but you're just mad. So you're not even good. We don't get political. I'm getting fired up over here.
No, but you're right. And I think there's a little, it's a little, is disingenuous. Is that the word? I don't know.
Disingenuine.
Disingenuine. There are people that are looking for something to be upset about. And there's quite a bit of phony outrage alongside the knee-jerk reactions to things. And then there's people that genuinely have questions that are going to do more of what you're talking about, which is I just want to understand the content. So if I go to see it, I can be prepared to react to the thing versus like needing to collect my thoughts after and go, I don't know, I'm going to have to think about that and answer your question later. But I think there's far more people that are just looking to react to something that they perceive as counter to their beliefs or their opinions or their whatever, and people just need to chillax a little bit.
That's right. I mean, that's the world. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in, and it's all issues. It's not one political party that I think is any worse at this than the other. That's just the climate that we're in right now in the Western world.
And
like I feel like when it's entertainment, you'd think that by nature of what it is, people would relax just a little bit more. This isn't somebody telling me the laws of my state or the laws of my nation. This is somebody that put out art. Like, I don't know anything about Robert Downey Jr. potentially playing Doctor Doom. All I know is that somebody put some pictures of him in Doctor Doom garb, and then you extrapolate, he's probably being considered or has been cast, I don't even know, as Doctor Doom in the new Fantastic Four movie. And people are like, no, he's Iron Man. How dare you? And then it's like, everybody deserves a second chance. And it's like, they list other examples of the really badly done two Human Torches characters that became other characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And you're like, see, they got a second chance. It's like, yeah, because those were poorly done executions of characters. Tony Stark didn't. And then people are mad and the geeks are freaking out. Dillon, shed some light. Has he been cast? Is there just conversations that he has been cast? What's going on? This is a great example of people going, how dare you? Not my Tony Stark.
Yeah. As we've discussed many times with Star Wars, this feels very similar in that people want their favorite forms of media to reflect what they want it to be in a way that's meaningful and fulfilling for them. So they're well-intentioned in the sense that they just want to be able to keep liking the thing that they want to like. But it's at the end of the day, if you want to tell stories about Marvel, you need to go get a job at Marvel and help with storytelling, because other people are at the helm and it's their job to tell stories, and you can vote with your dollars, and you can either go enjoy the content, or if you hear it's not something that you're going to like from a story standpoint or a writing standpoint, don't go see it and just go back and rewatch the things that you like. To answer your question, he has been announced as Doctor Doom. They're playing a lot with the multiverse theory right now, or multiverse storyline. So the theories are, at least the current ones, this could be a red herring, and maybe he won't really, but they're just partnered with Robert Downey Jr. to sort of mislead people so that the reveal later will be somebody else. There's a theory that it's going to be just Tony Stark from another universe who turned into Doctor Doom. Like, he used his intelligence and tech to become a villain instead of a good guy. And so that he could be Tony Stark. There's also a theory that he could be a totally different character and could just be not even playing Tony Stark. There's a theory
that was because that's what I was going to say. Doctor Doom wears a mask. The only holes in that mask show his flesh eyes. There are no lenses or anything. So,
Right.
like, could it be that he's just...
There's also that option, which
no
is they never
correlation.
They could use CGI or prosthetics or a mask or a combination in thereof to conceal the fact that he's just a great actor. So they want his acting, but they don't want him to appear to look like Tony. Because we have an example of Josh Brolin, who played Thanos, who also played Cable in Deadpool 2. And so he's now 2 Marvel characters, and Deadpool has been introduced into the MCU, and Josh Brolin played both of them. But as Thanos, he had so much CGI, purple head, whatever. He wasn't really Josh Brolin as a character. So they could do something similar with Robert Downey Jr., where whether it's CGI or prosthetic. So there's a lot of theories. I think the general consensus is this really feels like a love-hate. Like, people are going to love this or people are going to hate it. This is a Hail Mary from Marvel trying to make titles come back. They're utilizing a well-loved character. They had the whole Kang Dynasty villain character went away because that actual actor got in trouble legally and got booted, and they need a new villain. And so this feels like a Hail Mary, like, we're just going to pull a beloved actor in the Marvel universe to try to use him again because people are probably going to want to pay to see it because they won't know whether it's Tony Stark or so, so there's a lot of thoughts on it. At this point, I trust Marvel and Kevin Feige enough that it's like, I'll just hang back and see what happens because I'm not going to sit and play the guessing game for the next 2 or 3 years trying to figure out, and people go on these wild conspiracy trying to guess, and then they're disappointed when it doesn't turn out the way that they think it could turn out. And so it's just go along for the ride. And if you're entertained, you're entertained. And if you're not, find something else,
What I do understand is if I see a character portrayed by an actor in a given series, and then that same actor plays a different character later in that series without any explanation, it will take me out of it. If I can, if they're recognizably the same actor. And so you could say, well, that's happened multiple times across the superhero landscape. And I shared some examples on YouTube while you were talking where Chris Evans was one of the Fantastic Four guys, and then he was more known as Cap. And there are other examples, right?
Yeah.
But not to the degree of like being mad or like spouting off. Like, yes, that would take me out of it for a second. But if you like the Josh Brolin example is almost irrelevant because, like you said, there's so much prosthetics and CGI going on that it never bothered me, and I was able to suspend belief or disbelief, I forget which, and it is a disingenuous. You were right. Like, I was able to suspend that and just appreciate it for what it is. So, like, I do understand though that if it's the same thing, it's going to be like, what? Now he's this guy.
I agree with you, and let me end on this thought. We can wrap it up. I would be shocked if Marvel wasn't taking that into consideration when they know that he was literally the tentpole character for this whole series getting kicked off as Iron Man in 2008. I'd be shocked if they just let him show his normal face again, and it's not a Tony Stark from another dimension, or they don't do some sort of explanation or some sort of CGI or prosthetic or whatever. I would be shocked if they don't consider that and work it in a way that at least kind of makes sense. Like, they're not idiots. They know. Which is
why fans cheered when you brought back the other Spider-Man in the newest installment of the Spider-Man franchise, because you were like, okay, you explained it. You gave me a rationale as to why I could love all of these iterations of Spider-Man, and they can all exist. And if it's only somebody saying officially, yeah, they're all in the same universe, you're like, okay, now I can go to sleep tonight. I don't have to think that these other things have existed on different planes.
And that's a great example. At the end of Deadpool 2, I don't know if you guys have seen Deadpool 2, whatever. Spoiler alert, it's been out since like 2018. Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool goes back and kills the really stupid version of Deadpool from the X-Men movies, and also kills himself as an actor reading the Green Lantern script using a time travel apparatus. So like they've had fun with the whole multiverse thing. And like you said with Spider-Man, if only for a moment they were all in the same universe while they were fighting the bad guys and all the Spider-Man work together. So they find ways to sort of make it be fun, even if it's, not everyone's preferred way to handle the story or the writing. I'd be shocked if they don't handle it better. So with that, does that feel like a great point to wrap it up?
Sure.
Good. Any other final thoughts?
Sure. Well, I guess on that one, there's two audiences, I think, mostly at play here. There's what you might consider the core audience, which are the people who dive into these things and know actors' names and would notice things like this. They know that Thanos was acted by a guy who was like, I didn't know that. And I think that like the vast majority of people who made Avengers successful didn't know that either. The core audience knew, but the core audience isn't all, probably not even most of their dollars.
Right. Yeah.
You still need the core audience, but it's not the same. And in WWE, I think I talked about this before, when The Rock came in before WrestleMania, a couple months before WrestleMania, they were planning to pivot WrestleMania so that Cody Rhodes would not end up champion, but The Rock would come in and fight Roman Reigns, because they figured that's what everybody wanted to see. And there was a moment, to WWE's credit, that they pivoted back because the core fans wanted to see the Cody Rhodes story, not The Rock coming in. And so they made the decision that, look, we can continue with The Rock coming in and fighting Roman Reigns, and we will gain a lot of new eyeballs for WWE. We'll probably even make more money doing it that way. But they ultimately, The Rock actually made the decision that he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to piss off the core fans. Yeah. And so he went the other direction. It can go either way. I think the WWE found a beautiful way to do that, and they made The Rock turn heel, and it was pretty well done, in my opinion. But yeah, just something else to think about too. Sometimes going the other way and doing the fan service thing, but then the problem with the fan service thing is that people complain about that too. So,
well, in all of these topics, there's always a vocal minority, and sometimes a news article is written about 4 people on Twitter and 3 people on Reddit complaining about Tony Stark. So, take all of it with a grain of salt. You're spot on.
Nothing is real. Nothing is real.
That's right. Well, this feels like a great time to wrap this one up. We can hear from some of our friends, or we've heard from some of our friends in Odd Pods Media, but make sure you check out our friends over at Artius Man, ARTIUSMAN.com. Use promo code The Middle. You'll save 25% off your first order. They make awesome products for your beards and for your bath time, and some great stuff for folks that might need some of that. It helps us, it helps them, it helps you, and we all benefit. This has been a really fun episode, and thanks for listening. Make sure to share our episodes with your friends.
Bye.
Bye.